I'm delighted that we're going to be talking today to Andy Freeman. Andy's the first person, the first man to do our menopause first aid CPD training. And he's going to give us his personal objective on why he did this and all the things that he's learned, which I think will really influence and impact so many people's lives. So, Andy, first of all, tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Thank you so much for today. I really, really appreciate inviting me to have this conversation. I feel very honoured, to be fair. And yeah, for the first meal, it feels it feels very weird, but in a good way. Hi, my name's Andy Freeman. I'm one of the founding directors of Evergreen Active CIC. So Evergreen Active is a community interest company. We're a social enterprise, and we are focused on sustainable health. So we like to leave kind of lasting impact on the work we do with individuals, families, and communities that we serve. Our services and programs are around kind of physical activity, so we do lots of walking and running groups. We do mental health support, so we do men's mental health support. We have healthy eating, so we do lots of let's get cooking programs. We do family wellbeing programs, and of course, menopause workshops. And one of our programs we've created is called Gen X Strength, which I think I can go in a little bit more depth a little bit later. But yeah, it's a kind of multi-range organisation working in different areas with different people, which is lovely to do.
Absolutely. And really, at the grassroots, reaching out and helping people empower themselves with knowledge, information, and just getting that sense of community. So important for our health and well-being. But obviously, we're focusing a lot on menopause today. Just tell us what actually led you to do the menopause first aid CPD in the first place.
Honestly, I think there's probably two things. Paula, who I'll explain in a second, and reality. So Paula Appleton is my colleague. She's one of the co-founding directors of Evergreen Active, and she actually took this course before I did. So she was kind of going through her own menopause kind of learning journey. And kind of every time she completed a module or read something, she'd like come back to me and like tell me everything about it. And then kind of the penny had dropped, and then she'd kind of talk about it even further. And the excitement on her face and the kind of learning behind it was fantastic. So kind of the more she learned, the kind of more I learned about it. And kind of by the time she finished the course, I kind of thought, why on earth am I not doing this course? Why am I not doing it? So it just made sense the way she was kind of going through the emotions of explaining things to me, and the way she was kind of describing things to me. And you could I mean she'd read the module, she'd read part of the chapter, and then she'd go off and go to further studies and come back to me and tell me more about it. So I became more passionate about it than ever in terms of the way she was explaining it to me. But it just made sense to a faint at that point. I think, and then there's reality. So menopause directly affects 50% of the population. It indirectly affects the other 50% of the population. So it just made sense to do it, to be fair. It just made sense to kind of connect and be part of it, because I can either be engaged with it and involved in it, or I can just kind of push back and just ignore it. And pushing back and ignore it is not my type of thing. So getting involved and being part of it was my more process and based kind of approach to decision, really. So through my work for Evergreen Active, I've kind of seen firsthand really lack of understanding that can lead to people struggling in silence and struggling at work and struggling at home or struggling in social settings. So I just wanted to become better informed, so I could lead like a meaningful offer or meaningful support to people, just so I could be more inclusive environment. We try to be as inclusive as we can at Evergreen Active, and it just made sense to try and offer this as another thing, but with an understanding of it. So again, it just made sense.
Well, absolutely. And we're delighted that you did. Um, all the time we say that menopause doesn't just affect the female population. This is everybody. And we really need to educate ourselves to help and support others, whether that's at work or at home. If I ask you, what did you learn? We could be here all day, but was there anything that really stood out to you that made you think, oh, I just never knew that?
Well, yeah, I pretty much learned everything. So I don't say that lightly as well. It was kind of everything about it. I knew nothing prior to this course about menopause or prior to kind of listening to Paula and talking to Paula about it. So for me, the first real fundamental thing was that menopause isn't just one thing. There's three stages to it, and that was complete news to me. So kind of obviously perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause too. It wasn't like a light switch where it comes on and then there's an end point and then it finishes. There's a much longer process, and everybody's different. So for me, that was a real fundamental basis of learning, really. And from page 2 to page 55 of your manual, that entire book was a learning process for me too. So it was a real big learning curve in terms of learning everything about it. But yeah, hormonal changes. I mean, estrogen is such a fundamental, basic, important hormone that's going to affect women in multiple different ways. And as people reach kind of postmenopause, it drops massively, and it can affect people in a really big way. In bone density or bone health can really be affected. So that's some information I didn't know. And again, from our delivery point of view, when we are working with people in the community, if we're doing some of our walk and running groups specifically, that kind of repetitive movement can really be effective to people. And if I'm asking people who can potentially run a distance or run up a hill or walk up a hill or something, and it's quite strenuous and quite difficult, and then I find out in a couple of weeks' time they've injured themselves or they've had a fall or something, that could have been caused by something that we created unknowingly. So having that real fundamental understanding in a really basic level was key, not just key in terms of understanding, but key to a lot of programs and we deliver and a lot of people we work with. So it was really important in that case. And again, kind of HRT. You know, I used to work in schools quite heavily, and I used to hear teachers saying this HRT all the time, and HRT, and people saying, "Oh, they've got the gel patch," and I have no idea what they were talking about. And I didn't have the confidence to even go up to them and say, "What is HRT?" So just just hearing certain things and understanding certain words you always hear acronyms being spoken about in workplaces all the time, and there's an assumption you know what it means, but in this situation, I didn't. So knowing these things, knowing how hot flushes and mood swings and brain fog, anxiety, and poor sleep can affect people, they're massive to people's lives. And if they're then going to work the next day and struggling in work, and I'm thinking like this person used to be on top of the world in terms of work, and now they're struggling. What's up with them? What's their problem? And now I'm realizing actually that's not the case at all, Andy. I'm making prejudgment assumptions here. I need to take a step back and realize they're actually the symptoms seem to be this and recognizing this. So I learned everything, but just the real kind of blocks, the real building blocks behind it, and the real understanding behind it, and the science behind it gave me a lot of in-depth understanding and has helped me, or I hope it has helped me with people that we work with and deliver to.
Perfect. I agree so much that this isn't just this phase that happens between A and B. There's all of this turbulence that happens during perimenopause, but what happens in these years beforehand can massively impact how you live the rest of your life. I'm so glad you mentioned about bone density because that's something people often don't recognise or know. But if we can try and get people to be more active and do the type of activities that will maintain that bone density for longer, then that in itself is a huge influence on their health and well-being in later life. And that's just one of the topics. So absolutely, I know it's huge. Yeah.
Well, like the practical guides and the practical tips that were provided throughout the learning were really, really good because they just gave me a little tip or a little way to help support people and making those small judgments or adjustments, or even like how to start a conversation. In how do you start a conversation with someone about it, especially from my kind of situation where I'm a male. So I'm coming to someone and speaking, having a conversation with someone because I've noticed the symptoms, I've noticed how how they're having conversations with people. I hear them saying the word HRT. I need to kind of potentially have that conversation with somebody just to provide help and support if they needed it and if they wanted it. But having that confidence now that I have through the first aid qualification and knowledge of it, it has allowed me to go to someone and have that conversation and know how to start that conversation as well, rather than coming in thinking I know, but actually I didn't know. So yeah, I thought practical tips were fantastic in terms of learning and helping me along the way too.
And I think confidence is a huge part of it. And often people will think, I just daren't say anything in case I say the wrong thing, so I'll say nothing. But just
Yes.
being able to open that door to let them have that conversation if they choose to, and then being able to give them some words of support based on knowledge, but signpost them on to get professional help if that's required as well. So that really puts you in a wonderful position. And how has this been received in terms of what you've been doing? How's it gone for you?
Really well. Obviously, it's been really positive, but it's more the everyday things. It's the everyday life situation. It's not some this kind of big thing that something just come out there and then everyone's crowded around me and they've given me a pat on the back and such. It's been the everyday thing. So I work with women, I live with women, I'm surrounded by women all day, my personal and professional life. So I'm married, and with Jacqueline, and I've got three daughters as well who are primary schools, just entering secondary school age. So women are all around me in terms of the people I work with, so and live with. So it's a real kind of connection within everybody I work with. But very Active, we kind of worked on that and created a program. So Gen X Strength is a program I mentioned earlier. We've designed that to work to support women who are perimenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopause. And again, talk about kind of bone strength and bone health. We deliver activity and programs that work around that. So it really helps support them, focus on the kind of movement, the strength, but also that community support as well, not just assuming that they have support mechanisms in their lives. So it really helps support women and hopefully provide them with a mechanism to talk to other women about it and get support too. So we're providing that information there. We're providing the exercise and strength-based exercise there that's specifically created for women who are perimenopausal, menopause, and postmenopause too. So it's a really good way to support women. Again, that program isn't delivered by me, it's delivered by Paula. But again, that was because women would feel potentially insecure. I may potentially feel a bit awkward at being myself. So we've recognised and understood that and brought a woman leader to lead that. But hopefully in time we can deliver that program. Potentially a male could be part of that too. So it's a process we're hoping would happen. But again, it's always been about informed with individuals that take part. We listen to their voices and we accept their voices and what they want to say.
Yeah.
But kind of beyond that training, it's really influencing everything we deliver. A lot of programs we deliver are with different families. Sometimes we deliver families where the parents come, who mom may be at that perimenopausal stage, or even grandparents come to some of our programs too. So again, some of the grandparents are just entering menopause or post-menopause. So it is kind of working to different families and different generations too. So it's really helpful in learning and knowing that knowledge to provide to people with confidence as well.
And why do you think that men need to know about menopause? Because often this is seen as something that only women need to know about and talk about, but that isn't the case. So, why do men need to talk about menopause?
I think it affects men in every single way, just like it affects women. I think if I am a man who, just to assume I'm a CEO of a large organization, I am 32 and I'm single. Unless I've had some experience of working with women who are going through menopause or at perimenopause or even post-menopause state, unless I've had some exposure to that, I won't know how to approach, how to manage, and how to support people. So if I find a woman who is in a sales job and is hitting the targets day in, day out, doing everything she should be doing, and then suddenly she's just dropping her sale targets. Suddenly she's struggling at work. Suddenly she's needing the window open all the time, or she's complaining about the temperature in the office. If I don't have the skill set or the knowledge or the experience of how to support her in the right way, she's potentially going to leave. and she's potentially going to lose, or out as a business, I would lose that experience and knowledge and that value of what she brought over the years or decades that she's worked for that organization. So for me, as a male point of view, or even a workplace point of view, I need to make sure that my staff are supported, encouraged, and helped, and inspired and motivated in every single way. So as a man who just simply ignores that, I think that's not my problem really. It's a woman's issue. That is archaic, in my opinion, first and foremost. But it's also the wrong approach. If you can support your staff in the right way, they could be potentially more productive. They feel more loyal to the organisation, and you can potentially make more profit from a kind of business point of view. But also from a staff point of view, they're supporting them, and people feel motivated. And then if it comes to employing new staff, the women in that workplace may persuade other women to come into this workplace who know that this organization is supportive, is encouraging, is motivating, and is helpful for people.
Mm. It's better for everybody, isn't it? You know, for the individuals and obviously for the bottom line for the organisation. Really, we know that a lot of women do leave their jobs due to their menopause symptoms, when actually with the right support and help and information they could definitely stay on. So I don't know how you're going to sum this up, but what would your advice be to other men?
For me, it's, I suppose, listening first, because you need to listen to people, find out what their situation is. And by listening, you're learning them. If I'm listening to my staff members, if I'm looking around the workplace or at home or in social environments with friends and family, if I'm listening carefully and I'm learning from people, then I'm going to be in a better position with it, I think. So I think the kind of first bit is listen and learn, essentially. Next is kind of start a conversation. I think it's really important to start a conversation with people, especially if you're in a role of hierarchy, or you're a manager, or you're a senior manager of some sort. I think that's really, really important to have that conversation, start the conversation. If you start it, I think people feel more comfortable and confident in raising concerns they have at workplaces, or if they are having troubles as a friendship circle or as a family member. Raising that, I think, will give confidence to people. And I think advocating for change. If your workplace, if your um, relationship, if something's affecting you, I think there needs to be change, and it needs to be change for the better. So advocate for change in the workplace, or I say in social setting, to make changes to do that. I mean, making small adjustments in the workplace can have a dramatic effect for the benefit of people.
Mm.
That doesn't necessarily need to be just menopause, but obviously this is specific about this. But if we make those small adjustments, people will feel valued more, people will feel respected, people will feel as though they can stay at their workplace and benefit from it. By making adjustments in these small ways can have a dramatic effect in a positive way for people in people's lives.
Mm.
So yeah, I think listening and learning is a really key element. I think having that conversation, starting that conversation, but also advocating for change. If people are saying something to you and you're hearing that and you're having conversation with people, you've got to advocate for that change to happen in order to make the better situation for people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so true what you're saying. And I hope that people listening to this are going to feel inspired by you to do this and see that this isn't just something for women. It's something for everyone, all of us, to be able to understand more about and help each other through. What are the next steps for you then, Andy? How are you going to take this forward?
So we want to expand our services in where we work and what we do. So we are currently working with businesses to provide menopause support, whether it's one-to-one listening, kind of active listening time, where we talk to men and women to find out if there's anything that's affecting their lives. But we want to branch out further to other organisations. We've recently worked with of Justice in Bradford, and that was a really successful kind of conversation talk we had with them. But again, having experience worked in schools, I know for a fact there's a lot of teachers out there who are turning to part-time at a certain point in their life, and that's not necessarily because they can't do the job, it's because they are struggling. And my assumption on a really big level is that it's down to menopause. So if we can have conversations with education establishments and schools and councils about this, we hope that people will make kind of small adjustments again to recognise that, and maybe we can potentially then keep staff full-time rather than part-time, because they feel valued, they feel respected, and they feel as though they've been heard.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really expanding our services and where we are and what we do with that. Yeah, we hope we can still carry on the Gen X strength workouts. We think they're a really successful program and they work really well. Again, it's just finding the right location and spreading it out to more and more people. I think kind of menopause awareness isn't just kind of about knowledge, it's about action. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we kind of get better support. I think we can offer it to more people around us. So I think getting the word out more and more and spreading it out to more and more people and making people aware. And again, it's not necessarily they didn't want to know, they just didn't know. So it's just getting that word out more and more to more people and more organisations. And again, turn the tide. So this is not just a woman issue, as people potentially would describe it. It is all of our issues, and we need to all work together to achieve it.
Yeah. Well, Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, hearing about everything that you've done. And honestly, it really is a great honour that you were the first man to do our menopause first aid. But I hope that there'll be many more that follow suit now, having listened to your positive story. And keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you.